Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. It is time now for today's Talkback segment. Each day we post a question on Court TV's social media pages. We gather your comments and questions and then respond right here on the show. Today we asked our viewers, what do you think of the 2-year sentence imposed in the case of Kim Potter? Still with me, appellate attorney Matthew Barhoma. And Matthew, our first comment comes from Marlena Gibson. She says, no, this was not justice for her victims. Hopefully the family can learn to cope with this horrible tragedy. The Wright family doesn't get the luxury of putting it behind them and moving on. This was a slap on the wrist. You know, one of the other issues I had with this sentencing, Matthew, was that there seemed to be so much emphasis put on how and what, how this might affect the defendant, and not quite enough put on what the families were dealing with.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, when you're thinking about retribution, you're thinking about, you know, making a party whole, handing out a sentence that is equitable in nature. And to a lot of individuals, especially like this one, they feel like this was a slap on the wrist. This was going easy on Kim Potter, and it was not validating, not vindicating for Mr. Wright.
Yeah, absolutely. Family felt the same way. There was quite a few comments, Matthew, along the lines of Dante shouldn't have resisted, almost blaming him in response to those comments. One viewer said, police are trained to handle distress and havoc. Are they not? Panic is normal when people are backed into a corner, guilty or not. They are not paid to handle the panic. Police are. And that's a great point, because I thought part of what the judge said, she said it in nice terms, but almost seemed to be blaming the victim in that this was a difficult situation. It was, you know, fluid. She used some terms. But again, my first thought was the same as that viewer's. That's what cops are trained to do. On one hand, you're saying this is a difficult job. Well, why is it difficult? Because they're trained to deal with these type of situations. We're supposed to be able to rely on them not to make that kind of mistake.
Yeah, no, I agree with you that, you know, she had years of training on this kind of thing. Actually, there was even testimony in this case about how she led some of the union and led some of these items. She's a very seasoned police officer, knew exactly what she was doing on the force. And that's exactly what police officers are paid to handle. They're paid to handle emergency situations where things maybe are getting out of hand, where someone may be resisting arrest. And in those predicaments, they're trained. And I think Kim Potter is definitely, you know, exhibited, you know, exactly what you don't do in a situation like this.
Absolutely. And it wasn't even a deadly situation. It wasn't like he pulled a gun or did anything like that. Again, it's mind-boggling. Our next comment comes from Millie Smith. I believe Millie is talking about the judge in this comment, and she says, I don't think it was intentional, but how do you cry for the shooter and not for the family who lost a loved one? Shaking my head. Actually, I agree with you earlier. I think it did show some humanity. I don't think she was crying for either. I think she was crying for the whole tragedy of the entire situation.
I agree. I mean, listen, this is a tough case, okay? No matter where you sit on it, no matter how you feel about the sentence, this is a tough case. It's a very tough fact pattern. It's hard. It was hard to sit through a lot of these statements. It was really difficult to listen to these things. And I can understand why this judge is choked up about it. I agree with you, Michael.